Hi friends, in this tutorial series we'll be implementing examples using Spring Boot and Apache Camel. In this tutorial we'll be looking at what is Apache Camel, why do we need it, and also implement a hello world example using Spring Boot and Apache Camel. For this, go to my website javastructures.com. Here go to Apache Camel. In Apache Camel tutorials, today we'll be looking at Spring Boot Apache Camel hello world example. In this tutorial, before we begin looking at what is Apache Camel and why we should be using it, we'll need to cover some other concepts first. And one of them is enterprise application integration. Consider the scenario of a big organization like Nike. They will be having different departments, and each department they will be having their own business softwares like supply chain management applications, ERP systems, CRM applications for managing customers, and so on. Such systems they do not communicate with each other. For this reason, such applications are sometimes referred to as islands of automation or information silos. This lack of communication, it leads to inefficiencies where identical data they are stored in multiple locations, or straightforward processes they cannot be automated. So in order for the different systems or departments to interact with each other, we make use of the enterprise application integration. So enterprise application integration, it is a process of linking applications within a single organization together in order to simplify and automate the business process to the greatest extent possible. So now that we know what is an enterprise application integration and why we should be using it, let us look at what is Apache Camel and where it fits in. Implementing communication between different departments, it is a complex process as each department they might have its own processor and specifications. They might use different message data format, and so the communication between these departments it will require the transformation of these messages. Now one solution for this is to use point-to-point communication. That is, the customer portal it will directly interact with the warehouse, and whatever information is there it will be exchanged between them. However, this point-to-point communication it has some drawbacks. Like suppose there is a change in the structure of the messages that are there in the customer portal, then similar changes will also need to be made at the warehouse end. So there is tight coupling between the customer portal and the warehouse. The best approach to this type of a problem is to make use of a mediation framework. The mediation framework it reduces the complexity and it provides a more flexible approach by adding and using a tier between the systems. So now if the customer portal and warehouse they need to communicate with each other, what we'll do is we'll create a mediation framework between the customer portal and a warehouse. So if the customer portal it wants to send any messages to the warehouse, it will send it to the mediation framework. The mediation framework will make all the necessary changes like whatever the data format changes or any other changes are to be made, and then send it to the warehouse. Now suppose the customer portal it previously made use of ActiveMQ to send the messages but now is using Apache Kafka. So the changes will only need to be made at the mediation framework level and not at the warehouse level. So the working of warehouse systems they will not be affected by any changes made to the customer portal system. So this mediation layer of framework is where Apache Camel comes into picture. Apache Camel is a rule-based routing and mediation engine that provides a Java object-based implementation of the enterprise integration patterns. So Apache Camel helps integrate the different systems in the organization. Next, let us look at what are EIPs or enterprise integration patterns. So when we write Java code, we follow design patterns for better coding practices. Design patterns they provide us industry standard approach to solutions of a recurring problem. So instead of solving a recurring problem from scratch, we make use of design patterns which we know will solve the issue in a standard way. Similarly, for enterprise application integration, we make use of enterprise integration patterns as these are proven solutions for recurring problem during the application integration. So now let us begin with the implementation part. For this, we'll be making use of the Spring Boot Initializer website. So go to the Spring Boot Initializer website. Here we'll be creating a Maven project. Group give it as com.javastructures. Okay, this is camel-boot. Next we'll be adding the dependencies. So I'll just be adding the web dependency and the camel dependency. So in order to make use of the Apache Camel dependency along with Spring Boot, the Spring Boot dependency it should be between 3.3.0 to 3.4. So here I'll make use of this 3.3.7. Now let us add the Apache Camel dependency. Click on generate. So here we have imported the downloaded Maven project in Eclipse. If you go to the pom.xml, here we have the Spring Boot Starter web dependency and the Camel Spring Boot Starter dependency. Next, right click on the pom.xml, run as Maven install. So this will download the dependencies that are mentioned in this pom.xml. So here the build it is successful. Next, let us have a look at what are roots in Apache Camel. A root it is the most important unit of Apache Camel. Using roots, we define the message flow and integration logic for our application. In Apache Camel, roots they can be written in two ways. One is Java DSL and the other is Spring XML. In this tutorial, we make use of Java DSL for writing roots. So a root it consists of a message channel using which applications they interact with one another. So suppose endpoint 1 it wants to send a message to endpoint 2, then this is done using a message channel or a root. Next, let us have a look at what are components in Apache Camel. The Apache Camel roots they are used to connect the different Apache Camel components together. A root it often starts with a component and it is responsible for creating a message. This message then passes through the root to another component. For this Spring Boot Apache Camel tutorial, we'll be creating a root or a message channel to copy files from one folder to another. So we'll be making use of the file component. So we'll be reading files using file component. These files will then pass through the message channel or root, and then we'll go to the other file component where it will be copied. So for this tutorial, we'll be creating a root from one file component, that is file C input, to another file component, that is file C output. So files will be copied from the C input folder to C output folder using this Apache Camel root. So the class in which we define this root, it should extend the root builder class. So root builder, it is a class from the Apache Camel library that allows us to build root from a source to destination. So here we are extending the root builder class, and which gives us the configure method in which we define the Apache Camel root. So let us create this hello world root builder class. Here go to source main Java, and here I'll be creating the new class. Copy the contents of this class. So these are the only changes required. Let us now start the Spring Boot application. So here the application, it has started successfully on port 8080. Also here we can see that it has started the root 1, that is from the file component C input. So if I now go to the C drive, here if you'll see the input folder, it has been created for me. The output folder, it has still not been created. So now suppose if I copy this file and I paste it in this input, here the output folder, it has also been created for me, and this file which we had pasted it in the input, it has been moved to the output folder. Hope you have understood this tutorial. You can download the source code from here. Thank you.